Before there was a fellowship, before a ranger claimed the throne of Gondor, two wanderers walked the hidden roads of Middle-earth. One was a wizard cloaked in gray, carrying only a staff and a quiet wisdom. The other was the last heir of a broken line, a man known to the world only as Strider. Together, they fought a war most never saw. A war waged not in open battlefields, but in shadows, along lonely mountain paths, in forgotten taverns, and across wild lands where no songs are sung. If you watched our last episode about Gandalf's secret war against the Necromancer, you already know the years of struggle he endured, before the Fellowship was even formed. If you missed it, you can find the link in the description. Gandalf and Aragorn were not just allies. They were the quiet guardians of an age standing on the edge of darkness. When Sauron gathered his strength, when whispers of the One Ring reached even the furthest corners of the world, it was these two who moved first. They hunted, they watched, and they planned, knowing that one day the fate of Middle-earth would rest on their choices. Tonight, we uncover the hidden alliance between Gandalf and Aragorn. How they met, how they earned each other's trust, and how their secret partnership prepared the world for the War of the Ring. And it begins with a young man who did not yet know he was destined to be king. Long before the world knew him as Strider, Aragorn was born the heir of a nearly forgotten line. His father, Arathorn, was slain when Aragorn was only 2 years old. To keep him safe from the enemies of the north, his mother Gilraen brought him to Rivendell, where Elrond took him in as a foster son. In Rivendell, he was given a new name, Estel, meaning hope. His true heritage was kept secret, for if the servants of Sauron learned that the last heir of Isildur still lived, they would stop at nothing to destroy him. Aragorn grew among the wisdom of the elves, learning lore, language, and the arts of healing. He was skilled with sword and bow, but more importantly, he was taught patience, justice, and mercy. It was not until he came of age that Elrond revealed the truth of his birth. Aragorn was the 16th chieftain of the Dunedain, the last in the line of kings, stretching back to Isildur himself. Along with the truth came the shards of Narsil, the sword that had once cut the One Ring from Sauron's hand. This revelation changed everything. Aragorn could have chosen to seek the throne of Gondor then and there, but he did not. Instead, he became a wanderer, a ranger of the north, taking up the lonely duty of guarding the lands of men from the shadows. And it was during these wandering years that his path first crossed with Gandalf, a meeting that would shape the future of Middle-earth. No one knows the exact day Gandalf and Aragorn first met, but it was during Aragorn's early years as a ranger, when he was still learning the weight of his destiny. Gandalf, ever the wanderer, had already begun his secret war, traveling through wild lands and gathering news of the growing shadow. When they met, there was an instant recognition, not of rank or title, but of shared purpose. Gandalf saw in Aragorn more than just the heir of Isildur. He saw a man of courage and wisdom, someone who could unite the scattered Dunedain and stand against the darkness to come. Aragorn, in turn, found in Gandalf more than a wandering conjurer. He found a guide, a friend, and perhaps even a mentor. Gandalf's knowledge of the past, his counsel, and his far-reaching vision gave Aragorn a sense of how vast the coming struggle would be. From that point forward, the two were seldom far apart in purpose. When news of strange happenings reached the north, Aragorn would share it with Gandalf. When Gandalf sought information about distant lands, Aragorn could guide him safely through roads few dared to tread. Their trust grew with each passing year, forged on lonely roads and in dangerous councils. Gandalf's respect for Aragorn became so deep that he later told Frodo that if he had any companion to share his peril, he would choose Aragorn first. And soon, that trust would be tested in one of their most dangerous missions, a hunt for a creature who carried a secret that could change the fate of Middle-earth. For many years, Gandalf had wondered about Bilbo's magic ring. Its strange powers and Bilbo's unnatural youth gave him reason to fear what it truly was. When he discovered its connection to Gollum, the creature who had once possessed it, he knew that finding Gollum was no longer a choice. It was a necessity. But the hunt would be no easy task. Gollum was cunning, twisted by the power of the ring, and as slippery as a shadow. He had fled into the wilds, hiding in dark caves by day and creeping along forgotten trails by night. It was Aragorn who took up the challenge. For years he tracked the creature across Middle-earth, through marshes, forests, and mountains. His skill as a ranger was unmatched. He could follow footprints where no others could even see them, read broken twigs like words, and know by the lay of the land where his prey would next try to hide. At last, after a hunt that seemed endless, Aragorn captured Gollum in the dead marshes and brought him, alive, to Mirkwood. There he was held by King Thranduil's guards, so that Gandalf could question him and learn the truth of the ring. The answers they discovered were worse than they had feared. Gollum had been captured and tortured by Sauron's servants. Under pain and fear, he had revealed two words: Shire and Baggins. The Shadow now knew where to look. Gandalf and Aragorn understood that their time was running out. If the enemy's servants reached the Shire first, everything would be lost. And so the quiet watch they had kept over the lands of men became something far greater, a secret war to prepare the world for the coming storm. After Gollum's capture, the world no longer seemed distant from danger. Gandalf and Aragorn both knew that Sauron's power was growing, and that every year they delayed would only make him stronger. But they also knew that the free peoples were not yet ready for open war. Aragorn set out on journeys that would take him far beyond the north. In Gondor, he served under the name Thorongil, hiding his true identity, even from the steward. He became one of their greatest captains, leading raids against the corsairs of Umbar and burning their fleet in a daring strike that left Gondor's enemies crippled for years. He also traveled through Rohan, Harad, and even into the dark lands near Mordor, learning the ways of the enemy and gathering knowledge of the terrain. Everywhere he went, he left behind allies and those who would one day rally to his call. During these years, Gandalf never ceased to move. He crossed the Shire's borders often, learning its ways and keeping watch over its quiet people. He sought knowledge in the great libraries of Middle-earth, questioned Saruman, and followed every whisper that might lead him to the truth about the ring. Together, Gandalf and Aragorn became the hidden shield of Middle-earth. Where Sauron's spies crept, they struck first. Where danger stirred in the wild, they were there to meet it. Yet their war was not one of great armies or glorious victories. It was fought in silence, a watch kept through long years, a net of vigilance that held back the darkness just long enough for hope to survive. And all the while, the shadow in Mordor was rising. The day would come when no amount of secrecy could hold it back. Soon, Gandalf would have to risk everything to learn the truth of the ring, and Aragorn would stand ready to guard the world's last chance. The years of quiet vigilance could not last forever. Mordor was no longer silent. Its fires burned once more, and the Dark Tower was rising. The moment Gandalf had feared since the day he first saw Bilbo's ring was finally here. Gandalf's visits to the Shire became more frequent. He questioned Bilbo about the ring and watched as the old hobbit grew strangely possessive of it. The clues he had gathered over decades pointed to one terrible conclusion, but Gandalf needed proof. During this time, Aragorn never strayed far from the north. He and the Dunedain kept constant watch over the borders of Eriador, guarding the Shire and Bree-land from orc raids and spies. To most hobbits, Strider was just a mysterious ranger lurking at the edge of the firelight. But to Gandalf, he was the shield that kept the Shire safe. When Gandalf finally confirmed the truth, that Bilbo's ring was the One Ring, he turned to Aragorn first. Together, they began to plan how to protect Frodo and get the ring safely to Rivendell. Aragorn's vigilance became more crucial than ever. He tracked Black Riders through the wild, fought Sauron's servants, and guided lost travelers away from danger. Every road he walked, every night he spent in the wilderness, was another day bought for Frodo to prepare. Gandalf, meanwhile, sought Saruman's council, only to discover his betrayal. Imprisoned atop Orthanc, Gandalf escaped and raced to rejoin the fight, knowing now that Middle-earth was truly on the brink. And when the Ringwraiths finally rode into the Shire, Aragorn was ready. The road to the Fellowship was about to begin. When Frodo finally left the Shire, the world was no longer quiet. The Nine had crossed the river and were hunting, their black horses carrying terror through every village they passed. Gandalf was still riding hard from Orthanc, racing against time. It was Aragorn who found Frodo and his companions at Bree. To them, he was only Strider, a grim-faced ranger offering his protection. But Gandalf had trusted him, and that trust was enough. Under Aragorn's guidance, the hobbits left the safety of the prancing pony and vanished into the wild. He led them through the Midgewater marshes, across the Weather Hills, always staying one step ahead of the Nazgul. When Frodo was wounded at Weathertop, it was Aragorn who fought off the Black Riders and kept him alive until they reached Rivendell. By the time Gandalf rejoined them, the road had already forged a bond between Frodo and Aragorn. The wizard could see that his years of preparation had not been in vain. The heir of Isildur had proven himself as protector and guide, and the ring-bearer had survived. When the Council of Elrond was called, it was clear that Gandalf and Aragorn were no longer just wanderers fighting in the shadows. They had become the leaders of the resistance against Sauron. From their watchful years and shared battles, the Fellowship of the Ring was born. Long before the Fellowship set out from Rivendell, the war for Middle-earth had already begun. Gandalf and Aragorn were its first soldiers, fighting not for glory, but to buy the world enough time to be ready. Their alliance was not forged in grand halls or on shining thrones. It was forged in empty roads, in secret councils, and in the quiet hours of waiting for the shadow to move. Together they held the darkness at bay, guiding events toward the one fragile chance the Free Peoples would have to resist Sauron. When the Fellowship was finally formed, it was the culmination of decades of watchfulness. Frodo was not just lucky, he was protected. The Shire was not just peaceful, it was guarded. Every step that led to Mount Doom began here, with a wizard and a ranger who refused to let the world slip into despair. And that is the heart of their story. Victory was not won in a single day, but through years of unseen struggle and quiet courage. If you enjoyed this journey into the hidden alliance of Gandalf and Aragorn, join me again as we uncover more untold tales of Middle-earth. Subscribe and take the next step into the lore that shaped the fate of the Third Age.